New to medical device sales meetup in Scottsdale, Arizona, May 4th. So this is going to be an event where you can come, you can learn from people inside the industry, teaching you how to break into medical device sales, as well as how to actually perform once you're inside the industry. This event's not only going to be for people who are trying to break into medical device sales, but for people who are already in medical device sales. A bunch of different speakers, as well as having the opportunity of having people we've helped break into medical device sales come, introduce themselves, speak, because they're going to be able to share their experiences of what it was like to break in and also what it's like as their experience inside medical device sales. This is also going to be a time not only to learn, but to also network. Like I said, we're going to have people inside the industry, but we're also going to have people outside the industry trying to get inside of medical device sales. And this is a great time you can make those connections that will continue to grow throughout the next several years and your career in medical device sales. Here at New to Medical Device Sales, community is massive for us. And I want to continue to give back to that community, continue to grow and put back into you all, and just say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in Scottsdale on May 4th for the New to Medical Device Sales meetup. Click the link below.
Welcome back to First Year in Medical Device Sales. I am your host, Jacob McLaughlin, coming to you on a beautiful, sunny Scottsdale day. You are going to notice the best thing I've ever purchased in my life. If you guys have listened to us for a while, we talk about silly gooses a lot of times. So instead of telling people that they're being not good at what they do, we call them silly gooses. And we found this. And then I also even found a sweatshirt. So I have no affiliate with it, but if you are a silly goose, you can get your own sweatshirt, or if you know a lot of silly gooses, get that person a silly goose sweatshirt or hat. All right. Hopefully you're laughing or you think I'm an absolute idiot, but let's get into medical device sales. So I've been working with one of our mentees in going into the industry of how do I continue to perform and turn a territory around while I'm in the industry. A majority of the topics we're having conversations about is how to convert competitive doctors in medical device sales. And so right now he's working in an area where he is a brand new rep within his first year, trying to be able to turn over doctors that have been using their competitor for a while, or that they actually used to use them and then now they use somebody else. And so I just wanted to share some of the insights that hopefully can be helpful for you all, because this was something that we've put into play. I know it's going to play out well for him. And he's already had some quick success from some of the other conversations we've shared with you all about like launches and so forth with that. So when we were speaking about competitive docs, one of the things you have to learn is why is the current doctor using what they're using? So for example, a lot of times they're going to be like, you can come and do this lunch and you're going to have 20, 30 minutes. So if any rep knows anything about medical device sales, they will tell you, hey, you're going to have 20 to 30 minutes, which means you're going to have 2 minutes, because you're going to get there, you're going to have your lunch set up, and then you're going to have the staff be coming in. And then eventually the doctor will be coming in later and having 2 minutes to tell you like, hey, tell me what you want. And then they're going to leave, right? And so our conversation was, in that time, what a lot of inexperienced reps do is they say, hey, let me tell you about all the great things about my product. And they just start selling right away, right? But we don't understand why the doctor switched or why the doctor's using what they're using. What pain points do they have? What do they actually like about what they're using? Have they ever changed before? And then just getting to know more of the doctor and why they use what they currently use. So our conversation is, he had a lunch last Monday and we said, hey, when you go in there, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to just be a human being when you're talking to the management and you're talking to the staff. Because what so many reps do is they only try to stay business the whole time. And then they try to sell the MAs, the medical scribes, the assistants, all on what they're doing, compared to where I had a lot of success. I was able to turn over the territory that was lowest performing to top 10 was by just getting to know the person. Do they have a dog? How long have they worked at this clinic? Have they worked at other clinics? Because when you find out that, what you'll find is usually it's a pretty small world and they might have actually worked at another clinic that you're trying to get into with other surgeons, right? A lot of these people that are working front staff or they're working like medical assistants, a lot of times when the pay is between like that $17 and $30 an hour, you'll see that they actually jump around pretty decently for the fact of, hey, if they can go make $2 more here or it's closer to their house, whatever it is, a lot of times they might make that switch. So the reason I'm saying that is when you're in those settings, don't sell. Like, this is the biggest mistake that all these reps make, is they're trying to sell the whole entire time instead of just have a conversation with these people. Why? Because when you have those conversations with them, eventually they're going to ask you what you do. and they're going to ask you what you sell. And then that is when you're able to come in and actually tell them about what you sell, why you do what you do. And then usually they're going to be like, oh, tell me more. Or, hey, that's really cool. And then what happens is when you walk out of the room, if they really enjoyed your conversation, you got to know them, and they liked what you sold, they might even talk to the surgeon about it later, or the doctor, or whoever your person you're trying to get involved with. So that's what I would sit here and tell you as you guys are trying to come in. The first thing is just get to know who the staff is. Just have conversations with them. Some of the best ones that I ever had was like, hey, learning that they were from Colorado and they moved here 14 years ago. They were married. They had 3 kids, that they have been here for a certain amount of time at this clinic. The reason they stayed is because ABC. And then they would give me some insight about the doctor that I'm about to see. Because as we know, a lot of times we're not being able to actually have a conversation with the surgeon before we're going and having a lunch. So then you get some more insight about them. Then from there, you can just continue to learn more about them. They'll ask about you, and then you can see this back and forth. I've actually even got it to the point where I got people's phone numbers and be like, hey, would love to just stay in touch. If you guys need anything, please let me know. And then that got me in to that office. So if I don't get anything from that surgeon in that first meeting, I now have a second touch point to come back in. I can just say, hey, how are things going? Hey, can I actually schedule another lunch maybe a couple months later? That would be my first piece of advice. Now, when we're getting to the point of you're going to be talking to the surgeon, what most people will do is, like I said, the surgeon's going to come in or the doctor's going to come in from seeing patients. A lot of times, guess what? They're thinking about the past patient they just saw or the 14 patients they have upcoming after lunch. So they're going to come in, and the first thing they're going to say is, I got 2 minutes, show me what you got. And then what most reps do is they say, yeah, sounds good, doc. So I have ABCD. And guess what? The doc normally doesn't care because they might not have a need. What our conversation was, and what I told my mentee was, hey, instead of just shooting right away of like, hey, yeah, here's all the benefits, it's let's disarm right away and be like, hey, doc, that's great. I know you're in a rush, but I always just like to see what your history is, what you've been using, because I just want to make sure we're even a good fit. And, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time, because if it's not, you can go see your patients and I'll get out of here. By doing that right away, you're going to be disarming and you don't go into sales mode, which everybody else is doing. You now just told the doctor, I don't know if we're even a good fit. So let's just learn about each other a little bit more and go that way. Okay. Again, bringing it back to dating, right? If you go into dating, the first thing you say is like, I'm trying to get married and have a kid by this many dates and whatever. The person's going to be like, I don't even know your middle name. Right. And then they get all like weird, except when you can come in and be like, hey, let's just see where it goes. I don't even know if this is going to work out because we literally just met each other 2 minutes ago. It then downplays the situation. There's not as much pressure, right? So when we can go and have those conversations with the surgeon, we can go and then say, hey, I just want to see, doc, what are you currently using? You guys will already know what they're using because they're not using you, right? But they're going to tell you, hey, I'm using, Medtronic or Stryker or whoever it is. And then this is where all the questions are going to lead into where you're going. And this was the talk I had with the mentee is ask the question, then just learn about them. Okay, so what are you currently using? All right, great. Now, a great follow-up question after they've told you what they're currently using is, how long have you used that? And then they might tell you, this is a big one, have they used it since residency or have they made the change before, right? Because here's the thing, if they've only used it from residency, that means they've never tried something new. And this is where you can have the conversation eventually is you used to use a BlackBerry and now you probably use an iPhone, right? There's been advances in the technology and in the space that you can now use, which will go a long way, right? So you can have that conversation with them. But also what we can bring in here as well is, okay, doc, how long have you been using this? And then they can say, hey, 14 years or since residency, and be like, great. Why haven't you ever looked at any other things? And they can be like, oh, it does exactly what I need it to do. Or they might be like, oh, I just really like the rep. Or you start learning, right? Are they using it because they just want to use what they've always known, which you'll find out a lot of surgeons do. They don't want to try new things because it could be scary and they just want to do what they know. They don't want to change anything because they already know it takes them 12 minutes to do this, right? So you just need to find those pain points of what it is, and then you're going to lead them into the conversation. But for this certain doc that we were talking to is one of them had used to use their old stuff and then switched to the competitor because they liked a certain rep at this competitor, but that rep now had left that company. So we were going to go in and learn, hey, why are you currently using it? Why did you make the change? And this is always what's normally going to happen is, A, they're going to talk crap about your old gen stuff that you used to sell, right? Like when I was at Medtronic, we had certain scopes and the 5 gen wasn't as good as the 6 gen. And they, I couldn't see as much. It leaked all the time, whatever it is, right? And then what I watch a lot of reps do in those situations is they try to defend it. Why I was able to take my territory and turn it around is you just agree with them. Like, oh yeah, I heard those sucked and I still have some and they still are having troubles. And then I have some docs who want to throw it at me. I know the frustration, and they'll sit there and laugh. And now you just made that bridge of being like, hey, I'm an actual human being. I'm not just a salesperson trying to sell you and tell you everything that I have is the best thing ever. So you can just learn more. Okay, why did you make that switch? They're going to tell you why they made the switch. And then you can learn, why do you currently use what you use? They're going to tell you why they're using what they're using. Now, here is what I watch a lot of people do. Once you start saying you to a surgeon, you have to understand surgeons are the best people on earth. And what I mean by that is they have a lot of ego and everything they do is gold. So the moment you say, do you ever have trouble? Have you ever struggled? Do you see this as a problem? They will always tell you no. Why? Because that's their ego and saying that they're not good. They're really good at what they do. Always stroke the ego. So what I've always been able to do is you go and then talk about another surgeon, right? You can say, hey, we have a doctor out of Milwaukee, or we have a doctor that I've been able to convert from that was using the same product because they were having trouble with A, B, and C. If you're a good rep, you're going to understand that why most doctors use you over the competitors, which is again going to be certain features that your product offers. Just mention those and be like, have you ever had any of those same problems, or have you ever had any of those same experiences? Now you just took it, putting the pressure on them, saying they're not a good surgeon. And now you just brought it in that somebody else had this problem. And now, hey, have you been able to relate to that? A lot of times you're going to say, oh yeah, I have actually had this problem. Then that's when you find a pain point and you can go into it. Really, can you kind of tell me what that experience was like? And then you're just going to listen. You can say, hey, maybe it delayed the actual surgery. Maybe it pushed them back a little bit. There's a lot of where it's going to go. So this is you just being a good sales rep, just understanding, why they're currently using what they're using, then finding out how long they've used it. Okay, why they use what they're using, and like if they're having any problems, but you can't just ask if they have any problems. And then being a human being, understanding that a lot of people are going to make a switch because of either a rep or a company, or they had a really bad experience. And from my experience, in 90% of the cases, it was the rep that was previous to you. They didn't show up. They didn't answer emails. They weren't reliable, whatever it was. And so what we had a talk with my mentee about was, this isn't the time to go say, hey, I'm your best feature. I'm the best thing for you. We're going to change your life, because you don't know them, right? It's everything's a relationship. So what you're just trying to do is either schedule a meeting for the future, or if they are open to it, be like, hey doc, I know you had a really bad experience. As you can see, I'm not the last rep, and I'm here just to continue to build a relationship with you, show you that I can actually bring the value that you're looking for in your patients. Would you be open to being able to do 3 cases where I'll walk you through there? I'll be at every single case just to try it. And I would love for you to just compare it apples to apples. And if you hate it, you can throw it at me and tell me never see you again. When you start playing it down and you can just be like, hey, just try it apples for apples. I would love for you to see it a couple times. They're usually more open to it, instead of you just saying, I have to have you try this. By you saying, hey, I will be there. You're confirming that you're going to be there every single time. But why I said 3 and not just 1 is just like anything, my friends, is if somebody tries something new for the first time, it's probably not going to go great. If you drive a new car, you try a new bike or whatever it is, it's a little different than what you've used for 10 years. So say, hey, I know it's going to be a little bit different, but I'm going to be here to walk it through with you. Would you try it at least 3 times? Because the first time is usually, it's 50-50 on average. But then the next 2 is when you can be there, they can have a really good time. And especially if all those cases are on the same day, by the 3rd, they start getting the stride. They start feeling really good. You start building that relationship. You see the flow of everything. And then again, you're taking notes. That's where it can really start to change your relationship with them, but also get the trust. Again, what I want you guys to think about is you just need to ask more questions. Don't try to sell right away. Get to know why they're using what they're using. Try to get them to be able to commit, but you don't have to do a hard commit. For example, if they don't decide to go into the OR with you, you could always say, hey doc, I know you got a lot going on. You got to see other patients. You got a lot of things going in your vicinity right now. How about we set up a dinner next week where you and I can just kind of talk. I can take you out and we can just learn more about each other and make sure it's a good fit for both of us. Now you just set up a second touch point. And then on that point, when you go to that dinner for 90 minutes or however long it is, you're going to get to know that person. And then for the last 5-10 minutes, you can go into, we have to talk at least a little bit about business. Otherwise, my company's going to scream at me for taking you out to dinner, and you can make a joke about it. And then they're usually going to be pretty receptive to it as long as you have a really good conversation. These are some of the conversations we had with my mentee just being able to take that, not selling right away, create touch points, and then just getting to learn what the surgeons are currently using instead of selling right away. Because again, my friends, if you just come in and you think, hey, how can I win 3, 6, 12 months from now? You're going to actually win your territory because you're not trying to get the sale today, have them commit everything today. And that's where a lot of people miss in sales, is because they become pushy. So that's the one thing I wanted to say. And then the last thing I want to end with is just understand what we finished our conversation on, was just understand not everybody is a potential customer. So many times we go in and we think, oh, I'm going to talk to this person, and just because they said they're interested in my product, that they actually are going to possibly use it. That's not always true. You have to ask those questions. You got to ask some discovery questions and see if they're even worth the time. Because one of his last surgeons that he brought up was, hey, he's been very vocal. He doesn't like us. He uses us because of ABC, and that's why he'll never use us. And so my conversation was, is you can go have a talk with him. You can go do a dinner, but don't really put that as like your majority stakeholder of like, hey, I'm trying to turn this deal into something. It could be like, hey, if you have an extra night or you have some extra time, go talk to that surgeon. But just understand, we always talk about this. You're not turning a no into a yes, but you can turn a maybe into a yes. And that's something I had to learn really early on in my career, is I was spending time with a bunch of no's, thinking I could turn them from a no to a maybe and a maybe to a yes, when you can just screw that time and just say, hey, I'm going to go and get an actual doctor who's on the fence, and then show them why you're better. And guess what? They're going to be your best surgeons. They usually do way more volume, and they're usually way happier to see you, which then turns into them telling more people about you, which turns into more business. That's where I would just sit here and tell you, again, it matters where you spend your time. It's all about being productive, not busy. Hopefully these tips were helpful for you all. I know it's been super helpful for my mentee. And when I have those moments, I want to share them with you all, because again, the goal is always just to continue to provide you all value. So if you can, press that like and subscribe button. If you could share this with somebody you think it would be helpful for, it would mean the absolute world to me. Just want you all to know, if you guys are really interested in breaking into medical device sales, or if you're an associate sales rep trying to go into a full line sales rep and not just go to like maybe 100K, 110K, but you want to come in at more than the 150 mark. We just got one of our students who did that. They are now over 180,000, which is great. If you guys are truly interested, you can click the link below. We do have a course. Our average person breaks in to medical device sales in 8.2 weeks at $94,478 as of right now. But like I said, I didn't see this coming, but then we had a bunch of associate reps wanting to go from associates to full line reps, which we've been able to help do that as well. But instead of coming in and maybe coming at 85K or 110K and not really knowing what to do, we're having associates come into full line rep roles at a way higher mark, and they actually know what to do once they're in the industry. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. I hope this brought you a lot of value, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.